All right, another week, another Snap Tackle Pod here. Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41, Dion Clisso of PrepsKC. What's going on, Dion?
It's another week. We're almost to the halfway point. Um, in Missouri this week, we will be at the halfway point. Definitely in the Kansas side as well. So we're moving right along,
Where is the halfway point from
half-ish,
Missouri? At halftime of the fifth game or whatever?
maybe. Well, when the fifth game's over, because everybody gets 10. When the fifth game's over, you're halfway through.
Oh, yes, everybody gets 10, yes, but in the
Yes,
regular season there is 9, yeah. So
yes,
so for Kansas, I guess, midway through that fifth game,
yes,
that would be the halfway point.
yes.
Yes.
So we're getting there. We're moving along. Had some good games last week. Got a few good games this week, and you're kind of getting more into conference, head to heads and things like that. So it's moving along. Some weeks are better than others. I mean, we got some good games coming up in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about that next week. But we got on both sides of the state line big games next week in the big class. We got Blue Valley West, Blue Valley Northwest, and then Blue Spring South, and
Mhm.
Lee Summit North.
But wait,
Both
so
on those.
you're already looking ahead. Is that tell
No,
us
it's
something about
next
this
week.
week?
Next week, no, there's good games this week. DeSoto and Baser, I think, is a really good game. I think that's one.
Yeah,
I think that might be one of the best games in five. And you've got
yeah.
kind of the round robin of the Blue Valley, St. James, and those guys they're playing this week. So you got some good prove games out there. And but no, there's some marquee games next week.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about last week first. How about that? One of the marquee games last week was Aquinas and Blue Valley, and the Saints handled the Tigers in what is now a 5A battle, right?
Yeah,
Same class. One dropped from 6A, one moved up from 4A, and now they are in the same equal footing. And St. Thomas Aquinas maybe got a surprising win. Blue Valley just kind of ran through the summer and ran through the schedule so far this year and returned a lot of guys, but the Saints got it done.
yeah, and it's the cardinal rule against Aquinas. Don't let them get up on you a score or
Yeah.
two, and then their defense kicks in and their running game kicks in, and that's kind of what happened. And Blue Valley kind of battled back a little bit there in the second half, and stayed with them from that point on. But Aquinas looks really good right now. The amount of players they had to replace off that team, and a lot of guys who didn't have any Friday night experience, even though they were seniors this year. There were a lot of them who were on JV last year, and they've stepped right in. And says a lot about their system, their coaching, and about their kids too, that they can not be shy about the Friday night lights and step in and make those plays. And it helps to have a good tailback like Cal Arndt back, and a quarterback who stepped in for them and done a good job. That's leading that offense. And but the thing that I think that the drum beat I'm going to beat this year for the Quincy, their defense is just they're just tough. They're good on all three levels. I don't think when you talk to coaches, they don't have to do a lot of things because they've got good players who are disciplined in their scheme. And Steve Rampy, who's calling that defense, which sounds weird because he's such an offensive guy. He probably knows what stops his teams, and so
Mhm.
he has got that defense playing really well. Not that they didn't play well last year on their way to a state championship, but that defense is really stepping up and has really, to me, been the story about Aquinas this year.
Aquinas ran it 50 times for 300 yards. I got to believe if I'm Randy Dryden, that's the perfect average, right?
Oh yeah,
6 yards every play, just control it. They never punted. They went for it 3 times on fourth down, once deep in their own territory. They're just they know what they can do. Everybody knows what's coming, and if you can't stop it, it's going to be a long night.
I think everybody kind of just said, well, they're going up to 5A. It's going to be tougher. Especially not so much that it wasn't, it's Mill Valley there. You
Playoffs
got
will
Blue
be
Valley.
tougher, right? But it's the
Yeah,
same schedule. They're playing 5A and 6A teams in the EKL, just like they do every year, and
yeah.
Rockers.
I think with the amount of people they were replacing, the thought was they'll take a step back. They look better right now than they did this time last year, I think.
Yeah.
And but they're healthy. Last year, the injuries got them about this time when they played Rockers. That's when the injuries started to pile up for them, and they had to kind of move some things around and kind of get through the end of the regular season, get some guys back, and they got going again. But no, they to me are as impressive as anybody in the Metro.
Yeah. Over in the Sunflower League, Gardner gets a 1-point win over Shawnee Mission Northwest. That was a Thursday game, right?
Yeah, Thursday night game, great game. It's back and forth most of the night. Gardner scores with I think about a minute left, and then Northwest runs the kickoff back. Well, I figured I didn't need to watch the kickoff. I've watched too much NFL because the NFL they by trying to make the
No, the
kickoff
kickoffs got
better.
more boring in the
Yes,
NFL.
by trying to make the kickoff more exciting, they made it worse. So I didn't think to myself I should watch the kickoff return. Shawnee Northwest runs the kickoff back to get the score that we would think would tie the game and probably send it into overtime. You get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty after the touchdown, backs the extra point up, and the extra point gets missed. So
Wow.
unfortunate way for them to end that game, but both those teams played a great game, and I think that's something that win or lose for Shawnee Mission Northwest, they could say, hey, we stepped up and played tough with Gardner.
Yeah.
And if you're Gardner, that's a great win for them. I mean, that's a very good, solid Shawnee Mission Northwest team. If you're Gardner, you got to feel like that's another good win for them.
Yeah, and it's a Shaffer Northwest team that's already beaten Olathe North
Yes.
and takes Gardner down to the wires. That was the two of the powers in 6A last year. We'll see how it shakes out this year. I know both of those teams lost a lot to graduation, but it's been a nice start for Shawnee Mission Northwest, even though they dropped that game and they did drop the game to Blue Valley Northwest. But hey, if that's
Yeah.
your non-con opponent, no. Nothing to hang your head there. And now they have the potential here to kind of go on a run, I think, in the Sunflower League. Let's bounce over to Missouri here. A couple Class 4 teams getting Class 6 wins last week. Smithville and Kearney beating Oak Park and Park Hill, respectively. Either of those results surprise you?
Oak Park, I would have said yes, but now I think 4 games in, we're kind of seeing what they are. I mean, they had to rally to beat Staley in week 1. They lost to Lee Summit West, uh, and then they go to the Smithville team, which isn't very flashy. They don't
Are
necessarily
they
have the
ever? Are they ever
well,
flashy?
but they were when they won the state championship. They had some athletes and they could score some points, and
Yeah.
defensively they had some guys who were good. They're really a some of their parts now, and they basically played a Smithville game. They played defense and ran the ball and got a win there. So which would you would think would play into Oak Park's hands because that's kind of how they want to play. But good win for them. And then Kearney really just kind of took care of Park Hill. I mean, they were the better team. I watched most of that game. They're a better team on the field. And I think, they're a team like Aquinas that had to replace a lot of players, but they bring back some key guys. I mean, Theo Grace, their starting middle linebacker, is one of the best linebackers in the state of Missouri in the Metro. And really, they have done a good job of replacing the guys that they lost. And it's kind of gotten back to the Greg Jones motif of, well, we graduate, all these seniors, but we've got another 30, to
Yeah.
40 stepping in, which in class 4, you got 40 seniors,
Yeah.
35, 40 seniors. That's huge. Hey,
Yeah.
Blue Spring South is winning games with 17 seniors.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a small class. I mean, that's an anomaly for them. But I mean, if you got anything, if you're in class 4 and you got anything more than 20 seniors on your team, you that are playing, I mean,
Yeah.
that says a lot about your program.
Yeah, it does. All right, so on the Kansas side, teams have gotten close, but nobody's taken down the champ of the biggest class, Gardner Edgerton, so far. They're still 3-0. On the Missouri side, the champ's gone down a couple times now. Lee Summit with a nice win last week over Liberty North, I thought.
Yeah, no, Lee Summit continues to play well. Their only loss was to Blue Spring South the week before. But no, they've got wins over, as I said, they're the champs of Liberty. At this point, they beat Liberty and Liberty North. So Liberty North, I think, is still a good team and is a dangerous team. Like, I think they kind of lack some of the explosiveness they had the last few years. Maybe just not quite as many athletes as they had in the past. But no, their offense was a little better, but their defense has been getting uncharacteristically giving up yards and points for Liberty North. But no, Lee Summit, Coach Todd Miller is now 3-1 in start there in Lee Summit, and they really are a team. They've got some good players, and they really are turning games that in the past they may have lost because that was a close one, went down the wire into wins. And that says that there's a lot of belief over there right now because when you get those close games, that's what it comes down to is who thinks they're going to win, who thinks, oh no, we lose this game.
Yeah. Let's get back to St. Pius. I mean, they've already proven themselves that they're better than Class 3. They're in Class 5 now, but they really did it last. Just, I mean, when's the last time Maryville got beat? What was it, 61-0? Are you kidding me?
They have had some games with Blair Oaks where they've given up some points to Blair Oaks, but they've scored on Blair Oaks as well. I think they've had some games the last few years where it was like 40 something to 30 something or something like that. They haven't been handled like this in a long time. I think that since the Rockhurst game, Pius has scored 57, 59, and 61. So they've got to find a way to score 63 this week to keep that track going against Chillicothe. I'm not trying to disparage the rest of that conference, but there's nobody in that league that's going to come anywhere close to them. The only team on their schedule that has that ability is St. James, who's knocked them off a couple times in the last few years when they played this game. But right now, I don't know if St. James can do it. So
Yeah.
they're going to get in that 5-8 Class 5 district with Platte County, North Kansas City, Fort Osage, and those are four pretty good teams right there. So depending on where they're at, they're going to have a tough. If Platte County keeps winning, they're going to have a tough time catching them in that district standing. But if they end up being the two, they're going to have to beat two of the three of those guys, which will be tough. But they're answering all the calls. The one thing that will help them is they should be decently healthy because their starters aren't going to play second half a lot of games. At the same time, that can be a double-edged sword if you get into a tough game that's a 4-quarter game in the postseason. That sometimes it's tough for kids to have to go that third and fourth quarter that maybe they haven't played in a month or so. Because there's a lot of times, and I can rattle you off some really good football teams, and I'm not being down on Pius, some really good football teams in our time at PrepsKC that were dominating in the regular season, have played in a league that maybe the teams weren't up to their standard that year, and then they got in the postseason, they got beat because they got into a tough, close game, and they didn't have 4-quarter stamina, and it's not an indictment. It's a victim of their own success, is what I'm saying. It's not an indictment of coaches. It's not an indictment of kids. It's just that can happen. It's one of those things you got to guard against, and being game ready for 4 quarters when you're hanging 61 on everybody.
I mean, I feel bad for them. They should be in Class 3. They should be mopping up teams in Class 3. I mean, they're the
Well,
Class
they're
2
already going to popping up.
school, and they're in Class 5 now.
No, they're a Class 3 size school. That's why they're in Class 5. If they were a Class 2 size school, they would be in Class 4.
I think they're only Class 3 because of the multiplier. I mean, I
No,
look
no,
at
no, no. Their numbers are a Class 3 number because you
their
can only be
numbers
bumped
Class
up
3. Okay,
this year. You can only be bumped up 2 spots. They
that
were
will
right
leave
on
them
the
in. They can
line.
Class 4 then. Okay.
They would be a pain in Class 4 as well, no doubt.
Yeah, no, they would be dominant in Class 4. All right, let's look ahead here to your Remax Big Three games of the week. And let's continue here on the Missouri side. Rockhurst and Miege. This is just half Missouri, half Kansas, obviously. Is this one half Miege?
This one's at Miege. Technically, it'd be a Kansas one, but we got 3 good games on the Kansas side. So this becomes a Missouri game with Rockhurst. Rockhurst has just gone out and taken care of their business. They get their plus 13 and they go on with their day.
Right.
You can kind of see how their games go. They're pretty much in control of most of their games. Miege, drops another one last week, close one to Blue Valley Southwest that was back and forth most of the game. They're looking for a win at this point. They got to try and find a win. I don't know if Rockhurst is the team you want to try and find that win against, but this has been a good rivalry game. And no matter where these teams have been in the last 5-6 years when they played this game, it's been a good game. There's been very few blowouts in this game. So I think it'll be a good game. I feel like Miege is getting closer. I mean, they were toe-to-toe Blue Valley Southwest last week and just lost in a shootout. So, it's a different kind of game than the Blue Valley Southwest game. It's going to be more, on the ground between the tackles, that kind of thing. So we'll see. But no, I think it's when those two teams get together, it's fun. It's going to be a crowded area there. Of course, there's the decks on the back.
People on rooftops there watching.
Yeah,
at the houses.
There's one deck that has like an elevated part to it that a few years ago they auctioned it off.
Yeah,
and it went for like $10,000 for when they were fundraising. So yeah, it's definitely a fun one.
I'm just looking at Miege's schedule here, and I'm looking for the let up, and I just don't see it.
No.
Rockhurst and Aquinas at Cardinal Ritter. What's Cardinal Ritter like this year?
Class 5 defending state champions, who I don't think anybody thinks can be touched by anyone anywhere.
Oh my gosh!
I know the Platte counties and the St. Piuses don't want to hear that, but Cardinal Ritter is the defending Class 5 champion, and I haven't heard anything has changed as of yet.
And then at Blue Valley North, and then Blue Valley to end the season. Tell me this: would say a 2-6 Miege team still be the favorites to win Kansas 4A?
I don't know if they're the favorites, but do you want to play them in the first round? If you
No,
say you're
nobody does.
Lewis,
I would think they would be actually the
so,
favorites.
tell me this. So you're Lewisburg.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
haven't lost a regular season game in like 2 years, and you've won some close ones. You're on a good run this year. Maybe you go undefeated in the regular season. Maybe you lose one game and you end up as the 4 seed, which they currently are. And you were to draw Bishop
The
Miege in the first
13.
round. This is
Yeah.
Bishop Miege in the first round.
You need the point system in Kansas, man. Come
Yes,
on.
yes.
No, it's a
So
great point.
that's where someone's going to draw them in the first round and be like,
Because St. James and Aquinas aren't there anymore. That's why I say that.
yeah.
I'm like, you could feasibly have a 1-7 each team get to the
If they
playoff.
were to get, they can get the
And
playoffs.
I would bet on them. It's not legal yet for high school gambling, you kids, but I'd say yeah, they might still be the favorites.
They're kind of along the line of that St. James team who had to, I think, make the state championship game to finish with a winning record.
Above 500,
Yeah,
yeah. Remember that year?
which they won.
Yeah, I think that was the year they beat Arc City.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, just
who,
wild.
who Arc City, who had a losing record in the state championship game.
Yeah, they did too. They was combined the two teams had like 12 losses going in the
Yeah,
state
yeah,
championship game or something like that. All right, so that's one of the Remax Big Three games on the Missouri side. Blue Springs and Lee Summit North. This is the first of like the Blue Springs two-step here for Lee Summit North over the next
yeah.
2 weeks.
They got Blue Springs South next week. Blue Springs is 3-1. They've really kind of beaten the teams they should have beaten. They lost to Lee Summit, which doesn't look like a bad loss right now. They beat Lee Summit West, and so this is a big test for them. Lee Summit North has got, they beat Bentonville Arc. They had the 2 week stretch of Mill Valley and Bentonville, which they came through and got
Pretty
wins
good. A
there.
team just gets their 13 points and moves on. They've been
Yeah.
like rockers. They don't mean not really
So
blowing teams out a whole lot, but they just get wins.
they've got, Blue Springs has got some athletes. They got some speed on that team, so that'll be a good matchup there. And we'll see where both teams are at. I think this is, if you're Blue Springs and you're wanting to kind of take that step forward and get to the point maybe you're a winning record.
Yeah.
Maybe picking off Lee Summit North is a little bit on the high end, but finding out if you can compete at that level and getting with those teams so you can maybe have more confidence if you're going into games down the line where you're maybe more even up. I think that's a good measuring stick for you.
Yeah. Now it seems like there's stages of the season. At least Summit North kind of passed the out of state stages with Mill Valley and Bentonville the last couple of weeks, and now it's like the Blue Springs. Later you get the least some a couple of the Lee Summit schools in the
Yeah.
Liberty North. But yeah, this may be the next stage of the season because I know that they've got their eyes on finally winning a state championship over there in the big class in Missouri. Fort Osage and Oak Park. Tell me about this one.
Two teams kind of going in different directions right now. Fort Osage is getting a little healthier. They're winning games. They've got River Peppers back. Oak Park has lost to two of their last three.
Love the name.
And they go to Smithville and get beat. They lost to Lee Summit West a few weeks ago, which that's the only win that they have. And so I'm not really sure what Oak Park is. I don't know if Oak Park knows what they are right now. I think they're still kind of finding their way. Coming off a 10-0 run last year and 9-0 regular season last year and got it to 11 wins before they lost in the district championship game or the quarterfinal to Liberty North. But no, I think this is a test for both these teams. They're not in the same class, so they don't have that kind of against each other. But both these teams are sitting at 2-2, and it's what momentum are you going to take out of this week, and really who you are. It's really kind of a definition week for both of them.
Yeah. All right, over on the Kansas side, DeSoto at Baser, two 5A schools here, two good football programs, right? Meeting up, but this might even be our game of the week on the TV side on Channel 41.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good UKC game too, head to head for both these teams, and um, they're both undefeated in the conference, and they both have gotten some good wins, and Baser started the season replacing a lot on offense, so they were relying on their defense. Their defense looks pretty good. Soto had to replace some as well, but they've got a good system. I think this, as time goes on, I know this is going to be a pretty good matchup for both these teams. They've been in this conference together for a while. I think they're both at 5A now, and that's going to be a big thing for both of them. They're going to this is a situation where we're probably got a chance to see these teams play twice a year going down the line because they're both always good programs and they could be battling, second or third round games in the postseason. And I think it's a fun one. Both teams are really well coached, and um, those towns are pretty close to each other, and it's a good one.
I mean, look, this could be a battle for maybe a one seed
Yeah,
on the east side because you got the other teams like Mill Valley, Blue Valley, St. Thomas Aquinas, St. James, kind of maybe getting beating up on each other and maybe taking some lumps in some bigger conferences. The winner of this game could go 8-0, right?
yeah,
And the loser could go 7-1, and they could be a 1-2 seeding here, looking ahead down the road in 5A.
yeah, no doubt, and that's why that makes a game in week 4 pretty big when you think about it in those terms.
All right. On the Kansas side, still St. James at Blue Valley. I mean, take your pick on which game the EKL is going to be your biggest this week. I guess it's this one. There's probably four others that
Both
are
teams,
right there as well.
both teams looking to bounce back. St. James took Blue Valley Northwest right down the wire. It was a field
Yeah,
goal in the last seconds in that game, and Blue Valley, like I said, we said before, got down to Aquinas and had to battle them from that point on, but they kind of gave up the stagger in that one. And you don't want to lose any more ground if you're either one of these teams. You want to stockpile some W's and bounce back. And so the St. James offense is pretty salty, and that Blue Valley defense is pretty good. So it's a good matchup there. I think that's definitely a spot that's it's going to be that's where the big battle is going to be.
yep. And then a sneaky great matchup I just love out of the Sunflower League is Shawnee Mission East at Olathe North. Olathe North lost a lot of graduation, maybe down, maybe dropped a game or two. They thought they would win so far this year. And Shawnee Mission East has been impressive, Dion, these first 3 weeks.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they lost a close one to Free State the first week, but bounced back since that point. Lathan North got a good win over Lawrence last week.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. They bounced back and got a win over Lawrence.
I can guarantee you this: if this game goes longer than 2 hours, I'll be stunned. Both these teams want to run the ball, though. Olathe North is throwing the ball more than they have in the past. Jamison Sarver is a really good quarterback, and is a dual threat guy. But Shawnee Mission East wants to flex bone you. They want to keep the ball on the ground. Their games move right along, even when they're scoring a lot
I
of points
think
like they
that
did
Free
last week.
State Shawnee Mission East game, I think there were four total possessions in the first half,
Yeah,
two for each team.
yeah. So no, it's Shawnee Mission East is much improved. Mark Semino's really kind of put his fingerprint on that team, and gonna have him on the radio show this week. Looking forward to that and talking with him. And no, I think this is a fun game. I mean, if I was looking to go to a game on Friday night on the Kansas side, this is one I would be considering to just be able to go and sit and watch a good high school football game.
Yep. Should be a good one. Usually a lot of times in these weeks, Dion, we don't think it's a lot of great matchups. Turns out there's always some
A lot of
upsets,
good
always
games.
some great games down the wire. It surprises you. It's great to have low expectations, right? I've applied that for my kids, for everybody. It's great to have low expectations. All right, number two, early to talk Simone Award here, and you've got your stats updated online. I'm looking at
Yeah,
them right here: passing, receiving, and rushing in the Kansas City metro area. I like it's divided by Kansas and Missouri, which is always good, especially early on when one team's only played two, or one side's
yeah.
only played two games, just played three and four. Later on in the season, once teams are bound on the playoffs, you
If
can put them together and get a better read. But I like
if
separating them now.
if you know anything with me, I'm an apples to apples guy. That's why we don't run some top 25 where I've got Mid Buchanan 13 and Mill
I wish
Valley
you would come around on
14.
the poll. Do multiple polls then. Do like a big
Nah,
class, small class. Come on, do something.
we do state rankings. That's it, based on classification, apples to apples. So yeah, that's kind of why we break our stats out like that. And it's you got the guy who's really kind of jump off the page at you is Banks Bowen for Lawrence, and he's got a
1,000 yards exactly.
1,000 yards exactly passing, and then rushing. He's hitting fifth on the Kansas side with 380 yards, averaging 10 yards a carry
Is he
on that.
really?
So
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
and I think they're gonna have to play more than 9 games, but he's pacing roughly to almost 4,000 yards passing, depending on how many games they play, and right around 1,000 yards rushing. I mean, it's not like he easily should make 1,000 yards rushing. So
Yeah.
those are pretty good numbers there. Tailback wise, you've got some good guys, Reggie Reese and Cal Arndt, Reggie Reese from Mill Valley, Cal Arndt from Aquinas are both averaging 200 yards a game. Robert Palmer got held to 137 last week. Really got to go in the second half against Ruskin. Ruskin, much improved, really kind of hung around with Grain Valley for the first half, and then Grain Valley pulled away with him. He's sitting at 797, and then Jackson Hicks from Liberty 748 in 4 games. They're averaging 199 and 187 respectively. And
I tell you, Robert Palmer, he is simply irresistible.
yes, that's a joke that you can use every week. It's fantastic. No, he's fun to watch. And we talk about you know your system quarterbacks or things like that. I watched a little bit. I need to see Green Valley play some, but let their competition level catch up to them a little bit because
Yeah,
everything I've seen on Huddle now it's Huddle. You don't see the ones you don't see the Huddle highlight where he gets tackled for a 1 yard gain.
yeah,
Generally Huddles are
yeah.
10, 15, 20 yard runs, but there's some holes that they're opening up. Now he's got some shift to him. He could change a little direction and read things on like his own stretch play or something like that. And but no, he's an interesting guy. And the Jackson Hicks is kind of between the tackle, right up the gut, much like a Reggie Reese is. And then we know Cal Arnt's, in the flex bone. But what I've seen out of him is he's not the biggest guy, Cal Arnt, I think, but he's
Callen's
tough.
small. He's a little dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's tough. He's
yeah.
tough little runner.
I
And
mean, look, he was their feature back as a sophomore before he got hurt, and so
yeah,
yeah, he's the opposite of Reggie. Reggie's tall, strapping, 6'1", at least, well over 200 pounds, and is like honestly, Reggie's yards per carry 7.1, which is great. Could be about 9 if he wanted to, if he didn't seek out safeties to just blow them up once he gets to the second level. Like, no, there's you can break it out over here, Reggie. No, he's a heat-seeking missile out there. He's ready. He's got the first down. He's going to deliver a blow, and guess what? Chances are he's going to get it the next play. So he doesn't need to have those breakaway gains.
and then of course you got the Blue Spring South Twins, as I like to
Twins,
call them.
I mean, they're separating a little bit here, Dion.
Yes, they're
There's
14 yards.
14 yards and 1 carry between them. So
Darius Morgan, 67 carries, 520 yards, 9 touchdowns, averaging 7.7 yards a carry, 130 a game. Kendrick Hawkins, 66 carries, 506 yards, 7.7 per carry, 10 touchdowns. He's got the 1 touchdown on him, 127 yards per game. So Blue Spring South putting up about 300 on the ground every
yeah,
week.
when you got 260 by 2 guys, and you're not
Yeah.
even factoring in your quarterback or any other receiver that's running the ball, that's
Yeah.
probably a good
So
reason you're 3-1 right now.
before we let you go, we got our elite focus this week is on linebackers and just going through and haven't recorded that piece. Ryan Wallace is going to do that piece with me this week. But just going through the list and kind of pulling some names. A lot of linebackers out there this year, and it's a pretty good group. We're not just talking about the Dawson Merritts and the people like that. There's Jaden Richburg at Blue Spring South and Alex I'm going to blow up his name, Alapas at Lee
Yeah.
Summit, and there's some guy named Jaden Woods
I'd say
who,
Jaden Wood's the linebacker now.
yeah, I mean,
Check on
so
third down. A lot of times he'll turn to D end.
there's a lot of guys out there, and it's been fun doing that piece with the different guys on our staff of looking at those different groups. And this week is linebackers. So that's our elite focus this week, our McCarthy PrepsKC elite team focus, and that's been one of the better things that we've done this year. Just having those groups and getting a lot of kids' names out there for people to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I don't want to leave out the receivers. We've talked rushing and passing. I want to know about this Larry Porter kid from Raytown, who's averaging 146 yards per game with 8 touchdowns and only 35 catches, which isn't a lot. You would
Yeah,
think
and
for
we'll see a
4
little more of
games,
them.
those kind of numbers.
They play Ruskin this week. It's a good game for both those teams. And Ruskin much improved under Tim Callahan. And defensively, like I said, when I was texting with the guy who covers Green Valley, he said that Ruskin is much improved. He goes, you could see how much better Ruskin is. And
Yeah.
so that'll be a good test for them against Raytown. Similar type athletes. That'll be a good matchup for both those teams.
Absolutely. On the Kansas side, no surprise. You've got a Miege kid and Jordan Ballard, a Lawrence kid and Jackson Becker, Park Chase from St. James. Usually the receivers match up with the quarterback, putting up big numbers. It's kind of how it works.
Yeah, no doubt.
Awesome. Well, I know you got to go. I got to get as well. Any parting thoughts here before we take off on this episode here?
No Mizzou this week, so it's kind of a Chiefs play at 3, which is the worst time. I've decided that's the worst time for them to play because it just breaks your Sunday in half.
I agree. And when you have a 5 o'clock show, you can't show highlights. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yes, it's all about you, and it works better for Sunday
The
sound off.
Chiefs really only play two or three of their games at a time I want them to this year.
Which
They're
is
all on
noon.
stupid days. And stupid times. So,
So,
all right, Dion, we appreciate it. Thanks so much for the time. Thanks to you for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Step Tech Pod.